The Child is a beautiful story written by the famous writer Munshi Premchand. He brought a new sense of social awareness in people through his novels and short stories. He is respected as an outstanding short story writer. The story contains various issues of Indian society and psychological aspects of Indian mindset. The Child starts with an introduction of an illiterate Brahmin servant, Gangu, who thinks he is superior among all the servants because he is a Brahmin. The owner of the house is the narrator of the story, and he could be Premchand himself. The rigid mentality of Gangu irritates his master again and again, but he is not much affected with this kind of behavior. The story has didactic significance as it challenges society's narrow-minded middle-class morality. Casting aside all societal pressures and breaking the shackles of rotten morality, Gangu shows courage by marrying Gomti, a widow with a bad reputation, and also sets an example by accepting her newborn as his own child. Let's read the story. People call Gangu a Brahmin, and he considers himself a Brahmin. My groom and other servants salute me, even from a distance. Gangu never does. Perhaps he expects me to greet him by saying, "I touch your feet." He never touches a glass from which I have drunk, and I have never dared ask him to fan me. When I am drenched in sweat and none of the other servants is around, Gangu does pick up the fan, but the look on his face indicates that he is doing me a favor. For some reason, I always take the fan from his hand immediately. He is a man of extremes. He can't tolerate people's chatter. He must have very few friends. Perhaps he thinks it's beneath his dignity to sit with the groom and the servants. I've never seen him socialize with anyone. Surprisingly, he is not given to opium or hemp. This is an extraordinary virtue in men of his class. I have never seen him perform religious rituals or go for a sacred bath in the river. Despite being absolutely illiterate, he is still a Brahmin and wants the world to respect and serve him in recognition of this. And why shouldn't he? If people can not only retain control of property accumulated by forefathers, but also derive status from it as if they had generated it themselves, why should he give up the respect and honor gathered by his forefathers? After all, this is his only heritage. The Child revolves around the character of Gangu, a poor and old-fashioned Brahmin servant who works for the narrator. Proud of his upper caste descent, Gangu maintains certain distance from his fellow servants. Even his master hesitates to ask him perform any menial tasks. He is away from all vices, of course, but he does not show any characteristics of an ideal Brahmin. I am not one to talk too much with servants. I don't want any of them to come and talk to me unless I call them. I don't approve of having my servants at my beck and call to perform small chores. I find it much easier to pour my own drinking water, light my own lamp, wear my own shoes, and take out brooks from the cupboard myself than to call for Hingan or Maiku. This helps me feel autonomous and self-reliant. The servants are familiar with my temperament and rarely approach me unnecessarily. So one day, when Gangu appeared before me early in the morning, I was not at all pleased. Whenever these people come to me, they either want an advance on their wages or they want to complain about another servant. I dislike both these things. I pay everyone on the first of the month and I get angry when anyone asks for an advance. How has the time, sorry, who has the time to keep detailed accounts of advances given? When someone is paid for the whole month, what right does he or she have to spend all the money in 15 days and then seek an advance or a loan? And I hate complaints. I consider complaints a sign of weakness or a base attempt at flattering the employer. We get a peek into the life of the master, how he likes to be left alone, and how he maintains distance from his servants. He is annoyed when he sees Gangu early in the morning in front of him. The narrator thinks that he must have come to either ask for money or to complain about other servants, and both things he dislikes. I said with a frown, "What is it? I didn't call you." I was very surprised to see Gangu's sharp, proud face looking mild, pleading and bashful. I reckoned he wanted to say something, but was unable to find the right words. Somewhat more mildly, I asked, "What's the matter? Why don't you speak? You know that this is my time to go for a walk. I'm getting late." Gangu said in a dejected tone, "Well, then you go. I'll come later." Annoyed by the unexpected presence of Gangu in the morning, he irritatingly asks him the reason for his coming. Gangu is a little hesitant. The narrator grows impatient and shows he is too busy and wants him to hurry up with his matter. Gangu finds it difficult to say whatever he has to say immediately. This was even more worrisome. Right now, since I was in a hurry, he would have to rush through his story because he knew I didn't have much time. If he came back later, the wretch would spend hours complaining. Perhaps he realizes that I'm working when he sees me reading or writing, but he thinks I'm resting when I'm thinking, which is actually the hardest of all my tasks. That's when he'll come and bother me. I said unkindly, "Have you come to ask for an advance? I don't give advances." "No, indeed, sir. I have never asked for an advance." "Then do you want to complain about someone? I hate complaints." "No, sir. I have never complained about anyone." The narrator thinks that he must have either come for an advance or to complain about the other servants. Gangu pulled himself together. It was clear from his expression that he was summoning up his courage when he said hesitantly, "Please give me permission to leave. I won't be able to work for you anymore." This was the first such proposal I had ever received. My self-respect was wounded. I consider myself an embodiment of humaneness. I never speak sharply to the servants. I try my best to keep my dominance sheathed. Why wouldn't I be surprised at this announcement? I said sternly, "Why? What do you have to complain of?" The narrator is surprised when Gangu declares that he wants to leave the job. "Sir, no one could be as good-natured as you, but things have so developed that I cannot remain here any longer. I don't want anything to happen to give you a bad name. I don't want your reputation to be sullied because of me." This created a dilemma for me. The fire of curiosity grew fierce. Sitting down on a chair in the veranda, as if making a concession, I said, "You're talking in riddles. Why don't you tell me clearly what the matter is?" Gangu said very humbly, "That woman, Gomti Devi, who has just been thrown out of the widow's home." He fell silent. I said impatiently, "Yes, she's been thrown out. So what? What has she to do with your job? Gangu seemed to throw a heavy burden off his head onto the ground. I want to marry her, sir. Gangu asks to leave his job because he wishes to marry Gomti, a poor woman with 2 failed marriages behind her. I gaped at him in amazement. This stupid Brahmin, with his old-fashioned ideas, who has remained entirely untouched by the breezes of modernity, wants to marry that loose woman, whom no decent man would allow inside his house. Gomti had created much turbulence in our peaceful neighborhood. She had come to the widow's home many years ago. The home's administrators had got her married 3 times, but each time she ran away in a fortnight or a month's time and returned to the home. This time the head of the home had thrown her out. She had rented a room in the neighborhood and had become a source of entertainment for the dissolute men of the locality. This was surprising. Gangu declared that he wanted to leave the job because he was going to marry Gomti Devi, a woman who had been driven away twice by her 2 past husbands. She lived in the same mohalla and was infamous. All believed her to be of low character, but Gangu's opinion was different. I was angered by Gangu's simplicity, but also pitied him. Is this the only woman in the world this donkey can find to marry? She has run away from 3 husbands. How long will she stay with him? If he were a very rich man, it might be different. Perhaps she would have stayed for 6 months or a year. This fellow is as good as a blind man. They won't get along even for a week. I said in a warning tone, do you know this woman's life story? Gangu said, as if speaking of events he had witnessed with his own eyes. It's all lies, sir. People have defamed her for nothing. What do you mean? Didn't she run away from 3 husbands? They threw her out so what could she do? What a fool you are. Would anyone travel such long distances and spend thousands of rupees to marry a woman just in order to throw her out? The narrator is aghast hearing Gangu's desire to marry Gomti, a woman with a questionable past, a characterless woman who had spoiled the environment of the neighborhood. The narrator is clearly puzzled and tries to give Gangu a piece of his mind. Gangu said with deep emotion, Sir, a woman cannot live where there is no love. A woman wants more than food and clothes. She wants some love too. Those people think they have done a widow a great favor by marrying her. They want her to become theirs, body and soul, but to make another person one's own, one has to first become the other person's. That's the thing. And then she also suffers from an ailment. She is possessed by a spirit. Sometimes she gets hysterical and falls down in a faint. And you will marry such a woman? I said, shaking my head in dismay. Your life will be ruined. Gangu said, sounding like a martyr, I think my life will be fulfilled, sir. The rest is God's will. I said firmly, Have you made up your mind? Yes, sir. Then I accept your resignation. No amount of coaxing and convincing deters Gangu. He has made up his mind, and the narrator accepts his resignation. I am not a slave to meaningless conventions and useless principles, but it would certainly be problematic to employ a man who marries a wicked woman. Fresh complications will arise every day. New dilemmas will crop up. The police might come calling. Lawsuits might ensue. Quite possibly, thefts might occur. It's best to avoid this swamp. Like a starving creature, Gangu had seen a piece of bread and was rushing towards it. He didn't care that the bread was half eaten, dry, and unfit to eat. He was unable to use his mental faculties. I thought it in my best interest to sever connections with him. The narrator had his own reasons for relieving Gangu. He did not want hassles coming his way every other day from the police or the court. He thinks Gangu is starved and frustrated. Gomti is like a piece of bread Gangu wants to take. He thinks Gangu is bereft of his sanity, has lost all reason and thinking in his insane attraction towards Gomti. He decides to cut off all connections with Gangu.